Hello and welcome back to the SimTech podcast, the show where we dive deep into the world of clinical simulation, innovation, and the people behind the tech that make it all work. And today we're going back to do a video podcast, which we're kind of new at. I think this is my second, maybe my third, so we're still learning. And again, I apologise for this is how I look in 4K. To help me to do that, I've brought along George. Welcome back, George. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, good. I know there's a little bit of disturbance where you've had to move rooms today. Hopefully, everything sounds good on both sides. What are you going to be doing for us today, George?
So I'm just going to be giving a demonstration of our DigiSim product, the creator mode. So this is kind of where all the action happens with building immersive simulations in healthcare, as well as other sectors, but predominantly today, obviously giving you guys some demonstrations. I'll then move on to just showing a very quick example from one of our clients at Northumbria NHS Trust. So one of our clients has agreed that he's happy for us to demonstrate a scenario that he's built through the creator platform that's been very empowering in this sort of space.
Well, Brill, I think we'll just let you get on with it then.
Okay, brilliant. So for the starter of the demonstration, I wanted to go to this slide. The reason being, it gives a bit of an understanding of the different modes that we have. Although today I'll be just showing the creator mode, we do have other different modes here, but just to take you through it, Vertus Tech DigiSim has 3 separate modes. Our creator mode, which again I'll be demonstrating today, is the very easy to use tool for non-technical subject experts or for clinical technicians, where they can come in and upload their own media, their own sort of content, and then they can distribute that out in order to create an immersive simulation. A lot of people refer this to as the PowerPoint of VR or the Canva of VR. I'm using the Canva slides on this one today, but you can tell the difference from those who do suggest it's PowerPoint or Canva. We have our simulation mode, which you can find out more of if you come in contact with myself. But the simulation mode is designed for all the students or trainees to then gain access to any simulations that's been very quickly created. This is a device agnostic opportunity for trainees and students, so you can have it working on desktop, laptop, mobile, VR headsets, and immersive walls, of which we've just partnered with Generate Healthcare, a fantastic organisation doing some fantastic stuff. We also integrate with LMSs, so the learning management systems, just to help it easier for any of the access for a single sign-ons. And then we have our data mode, and the data mode is where you can, as a creator, review and understand how students have been going through the simulation. You can even do weighted markings as well. So we have the ability of you doing markings for it. So whether you're integrated with the LMS, you can actually do markings, so you can actually score the students based on their performances, whether that's flagged questions. And the reason why on this slide we have 3 different arrows and there's a bit of a triangle is because it becomes a bit of a flywheel effect. A creator can basically create a simulation, send it out in the afternoon to a student. They would then review the data, and the next day they could just redeploy out a new version, which could be of a harder simulation or an easier simulation, maybe adding in an extra question during it. So as I go into the creator mode here, it's all web-based. So we try to do it through the LMS on the web, so it makes it a lot easily accessible for people. We have down here all the simulations that you may have built. So all the simulations and scenarios are those that have been created by yourself or a colleague who may have shared it with you. You can filter through to your own scenario. So as you can see, my colleague has done scenario 1 and Greece for me. As I take that away, you can see all the scenarios that I have created. So it just makes it a lot easier. Down the left-hand side, we have things called templates. Now, templates is for essentially, if I want to add any of these scenarios and save it as a template, means then I can get started very quickly onto a scenario. I have my media pages, so I have my 360 media with which I can upload straight into the platform. So the platform very much takes 360 media as well as 3D objects as well. So I have a series of 360 images, 360 videos. Again, I have the ability of watching these videos in this area. So this is my bank here, and I can make changes to the cards as well to make it a lot easier for when you're building it out. I've got my 2D images, 2D videos. This is all for supporting media, audio files.
How many seconds should steps 3 to 8 take on average?
Now, with the audio files, this is very much a case of whether it's a directive for the students. So this is what you'll be doing. This is how you move forward. Or it would be a question for the student whilst they're doing a simulation stop. And I'll explain and show in one second. You can upload your own audio, or you can record directly into the platform. And you can upload your own 3D models. Going into sort of creating your new scenario, I will just do a quick description. I can bring in a thumbnail. I'm just going to bring in, for example, let's just use this one as a card. I can share it within my organization or your team, and then I have the settings page to capture any data. So this again comes out to the data mode. Press save, and now my card here has been created. So this is my scenario here that I'll be working from. Once I click into this, I have my 360 blank canvas, of which then I can then start pulling in my media and start creating the simulation in a creative way on how I want to, using multiple of 360 images, 360 videos, 2D videos, and 2D images. So for example, all it takes is a drag and drop. So for example, if I take this scene of an outside and I drag and drop it in, I now have my 360 view here. I can add a new scene at the bottom, which then brings me a new blank canvas. I'll then add a 360 video into it. And let's just utilize blood taking, for example. And I can quickly review and watch the video here to ensure I've got the right one. And as I explained with sort of our different multimedias, I can in fact bring in my own 2D media as my background. So if I drag and drop this into my background here, I now have a 2D image, and we can also make a 2D video of which I can overlay interactive hotspots on top. Going back to interactive hotspots, at the moment, as you can see as a student, I have, every time I come into this page, I'm looking in this direction. The platform has many features and many tools. One of them is that you can make it so that you can set the start location for them, and you can even limit the view. So you can actually make it 180 so that they can't look behind them if they need to. Press save and start location. It now means that the students will be looking in this direction. For 360 images, it's very much a case of that look around and investigate and understand your environment. The two features I'm just going to show today is going to be the information hotspot. This is the main one. Here, with all the templated hotspots we got down the side, this is just to make it quick for the creator. So again, the idea around this is to be able to create simulations very quickly and customizably into your preference. I save it in the location I want it, and now, as you can see, it will stick in that one location here. I can then go and further edit this hotspot, where I click into this editor. I've got a little preview to show what my hotspot is and does. And inside this little box here that you can see, this box basically allows me to show the content of how you want it to display. So for example, this is the pre-clicked for students. So let's say the pre-clicked here for students will be to look at this image here. I can drag and drop. And as you can see, I've added it at the bottom here. So this is what they'll be able to see before they pre-click. I can then customize the size of this hotspot or the size of this image just to make it easier. So again, very much like a PowerPoint on Canva, you're in full control. And then what I'll type at the top here is click on me to find out more. Now, the clicked part here is when all the content can come in. So here I can then increase the size of the hotspot. I can then embed a title if I want to. So I'll embed a title potentially. I can then, as you could see before, I can bring in different images. So for example, I can bring in an image. I can also bring in a video if needs be as well. So as you can see, as I hover on these videos, it shows me a bit of a preview of what the video is. So I'm going to use this video here. I can then scale it down to the size I want. So again, different medias. And again, with audio files, I can do the exact same thing, where I can then bring it into here and I can scale it down. So again, as you can see in this box on the right hand side, this is my preview. This is to see what the hotspots are doing without having to save, come out, look at it, and then go back in. What I can do with this as well, with these hotspots, if I go back to default, is I can then go to styles and I can then increase the size of the scale of the hotspot if needs be. I can choose my different colors for this. So I have the ability of different coloring for it to customize everything. There's a little hover one as well. So this is the difference between the two. So I can actually have a separate hover color if needs be. But if I press this button in the middle, it'll keep it the exact same. And then if I press this button at the bottom, this will transfer the colors to the clicked. Because if I go to the clicked now, you can see it's gray. If I go back and I click on that, now I go to clicked, you can see the colors are transferred. So there is that there. I can scale this down a bit. There we go. And then press save. And as you can see, as I click on it, I can then have a look around and I can say that is quite a large one. So I can bring it down if needs be, again, for the purpose of the application and the product and the platform. For VR headsets or anything like that, you can have it as a modal on like desktop as well. So if I press save here now and I click on this, it'll come up as a bigger modal to help students and learn a bit more to engage with the media. And again,
where should you place your hands for the chest compressions?
They can watch different medias here and they can read and engage with text. So that's one of the features there, which is again, with this hotspot channel here, you can bring in anyone and you can edit anyone how you want to. We've also got invisible hotspots, and the invisible hotspots are designed very much to what it says on the tin. It'll go invisible. So again, if I just create a very quick example of this, I'm going to put a hover onto this as a bit of blue, and I'm going to put a scale up a bit higher and press save. What I can do here is I can actually do a preview toggle mode to see what it will look like in the desktop, in the VR headset, on the walls. So this is what the students will see. I can then look around, I can click on these to have a look. And again, as a creator, this is to help speed up the process of creating your own sort of personal simulation. For this one, I'm just going to quickly add in at the top here a change the scene. So let's say I'm going to go to the blood taking 360 scene here. So that now when I go into my preview mode and I've looked at this, for example, I press continue, I then go onto here, click on that. I've now moved into my 360 scene here. Now with 360 videos, it's very much a case of that assessment and again, building that storyline on how you want to go through a process. It could be that you're observing from multidisciplinary, so you might be having a student look at it from the point of view of a paramedic, going through into in-clinical sessions on the ward and how they would do blood taking, for example. So here, I can add stop points in. So once I've added this stop point in, this stop point here allows me to then bring in a question. So I go, what is your next move? Again, this doesn't have to be a question. This can be more of an instruction for people. You can also put a countdown timer into it. And as the platform does offer, it offers out both branching and linear scenarios. So, for example, I've got my correct and incorrect. So my correct answers here, I'm going to add it in, save that here in that location. And I want my incorrect answer, and I'll save it in that location there. So my incorrect answer might be just take blood without saying anything. So that might be the incorrect answer that you're referring to, and then the correct answer might be introduce yourself and explain what you are doing to the patient. So I save that, there you go. So there's my incorrect answer. Now, if I go into my settings again and I go to my actions, this actions tab is all about the feedback for the students. So how will they learn from what they've clicked on? Instead of it going, no, just incorrect, you would then have them sort of either watch a video to explain why it was incorrect or correct. So we've got the correct one here, and let's say this one is the correct one. I just bring in, for example, a depth one, just as an example. Press save here. And if I go to my incorrect one, and I go to my actions, what I might do is bring in an incorrect one. Let's say not quite. And then here's a question input for the user. This is basically for the students to answer back. So explain why this is the case. Save. Now if I go to my preview mode, just go back a little bit and I go to my preview mode. I've got 10 seconds. Just take blood without saying anything.
Not quite. Pick another.
So explain the case, the student would then have to type in, or they would, through the VR headset, they would have to talk in, so it would be speech to text on that side, as well as on the walls, and then you can then have it to say, because of X, Y, Z, I should be spelling that a lot better. Because of X, Y, Z, you submit that in, that goes to the data mode. It won't continue because it's a linear scenario. If I bring this in, for example, there's the correct one.
That's right, at least 5 to 6 centimetres.
And then I can press continue. And again, all the media is uploaded by the creator themselves in order for them to then build it together in a very quick and agile way. Again, I can add in multiple different steps, and this one I'm just going to put as branching. I'm going to save that here. Now, again, this can be, answers can be in the format of images, of videos, of audio files, of PDFs, if you like, or 3D models. But for example, if I just have it as, for example, let's just put an ambulance one, and I'll show you that we're going to go off into the ambulance cab. So for example, go to the ambulance. And again, it's all about the storytelling of the creation. Now here, I'm going to go to my actions and I'm going to go to move scene. I'm going to do to new scene. And then, for example, I'm going to press save here. And as you can see at the bottom of my sign, I now have my branching scenario here. So again, if I want to just press play and just add in another stop point, the students can go to step 1, step 2, they can either branch off down here, or they can continue to 3 and then branch off, etc., etc. So if I now go into this bit here, if I just go back a little bit, I just come in here, yeah, let's just press play. Let me just press play to get past this. So now I'm here, I click into the ambulance scene. I've now moved into the next section, which is the 2D image if I want to. And again, I can overlay this with interactive hotspots. Very finally, again, there's a lot of different features, but I won't go through them all. Once you've created your simulation, you can go in, and as I explained, you can, like the flywheel effect, you can then review how the students have engaged with it once you've launched it. But let's say that you want to duplicate it. I just click on duplication. I then have here the Craig's podcast demo copy. I click in here, and as you can see, this is the exact same simulation that's just been copied over. Again, I can make adaptations to this, and I can change this. In order for me to have a look at it from the viewer mode, if let's say that viewer preview doesn't look right, or you want to give it a go, you can go to publish a new version, so it's now been published. Now I can go to my edit and I go to settings. This publicly available allows people to see it from the web, from a link, like you would share a PowerPoint. I press save here. I can go into my new tab here, copy, paste that in, and now I'm in my scenario. Here, as you can see, I can click to have a look around. Oh, there you go. Click to look around, and then I've got my scenario here. Press play. Here's my other scenario. I can also mute it. Here's my first one, and again, going through this allows you to create the simulation flow on everything. So that's it from a demonstration, a very simple demonstration from me and how this works. But now I'll show you the demonstration of what Northumbria has created, what they've created as part of the DigiSim platform. So now we're in the account of one of our clients, which is Northumbria. He's created various different scenarios for students to engage with. We've got a virtual placement, which is an upset family. So this is all about the communication from a clinical perspective. The platform is very broad and adaptable to various different areas. So it's very generic in the way you want to use it. It can be very much from that sort of recording somebody who's upset and how would you dialogue with them. The one I am going to show is this Elizabeth delirium one. This one's a very powerful one that's been created. So if I click into here to see how it's been created, and I'll go to the viewer mode here, you have an area where, they've created different hotspots for students to engage with. So there's areas of
What is dementia?
going through all this, ensuring that the students have a better approach and guidance on all the wallpapers. Again, they can interact with these here that they've overlaid on top. So if I enter the ward and the shift, it will start by going, you've been taken over, you'll be asked to take over a level 3 observation in 4-bedded bay at lunchtime. So now I can have a look around. I have here a Catherine, a patient, and I have here on my right Elizabeth, who's also another patient. What you can do is you can actually become, yourself. You can approach Elizabeth, or you can become Elizabeth, or you can initiate a handover. Obviously, you can go back to the corridor, find a chair, and start full observations. Now, if I do becoming Elizabeth, this is something that they've created. Again, a very powerful thing. Here, as you can see, you're about to experience what it's like to be in with Elizabeth. And as you can see here, it's very much a case of what it's like to have delirium. A very powerful thing here. Mice on the floor. And this is what's the life it is to live as a patient with this. Again, from a student's perspective, this is extremely powerful for them to learn and understand a little bit more in terms of that understanding and what sort of questions to ask for the patient as well. So this is very much a case of what's been created. And I will just pause that for a second and go through to the next scene. So again, I can then go through to my observation here. So if I press play, I'm observing how they're reacting.
Sarah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Where's your dad?
And obviously there's a lot of gibberish, there's a lot of things, this is part of the area. So again, a very powerful thing that's been created by Northumbria for their students to learn and engage a little bit more and understanding more how they would then go forward. Looking at some of the other stuff that's been created here is observing a fall, so understanding how to react quickly to this and what would be the next steps. Obviously, this is a work in progress for Northumbria, so he's continuing to work on more of them, and he's got many more sort of scenarios that he's created on this side of things.
Well, thank you for that, George. That was flawless as I knew it would be. Very well executed. The first thing that really grabbed me was not only are we doing we're streaming it on a podcast, and you've had to move rooms, so you've probably not got the best connection. It seemed to work really smooth. There was hardly any lag between pressing the play buttons and stuff. There was no buffering time. How did it do it so well with, because I've used things like Scenario VR and a few other ones, and the loading times, they're really, really long, but there it didn't seem to have any.
No, well, this is the thing for Virtus, and this is kind of something that we really wanted to overcome, which is we didn't want the waiting time. We kind of built our own sort of process, if you like, kind of like with YouTube, where the video will come to play, but then the quality will start to increase the more it's been buffered and loaded. So it's kind of already preloaded and pre-buffered for you for when you've already logged into the platform. So it kind of hits it all at the very beginning. As I said, I'm in a bit of the cupboard at the moment, a bit of a Harry Potter style at the moment, and a bit of a shoe cupboard. And there is a lot of people out there using the Wi-Fi broadband, so it's obviously being very much tested at the moment. But everything you saw is obviously online. So we do work our hardest to ensure that it is up and running and it is working flawlessly to the best of our abilities. Obviously, you know, at the end of the day, it obviously depends on what sort of quality of video that you'll also put up into it. It can very much take the highest quality of HD, 1080p HD. Obviously, 4K it can take, but it depends on your device, to be fair, because again, devices nowadays still aren't there yet to take a full-on 4K quality video sort of thing. So we always suggest go for that 1080p HD. That makes sense. But yeah, that's what we do to.
Is the computer important as well? Because obviously we're just talking about internet connections at the moment.
No, so I was in a Cardiff and Vale University Health Board only a few weeks ago. We were in the orthopaedic area, and we went onto one of their really slow, small, tiny NHS computer desktops, and I mean it was insanely small. I couldn't believe it, and it was very dated. It worked flawlessly on that as well. Even the doctor that was with me, he was very, very shocked at how easy it was working and how it could use the internet broadband as well, because obviously in hospitals the internet isn't very good either in hospitals. So again, they were very, very impressed by how quick it was, and the device does not matter on that side.
Is there a limit to the file size that you can put on there? Because sometimes I've tried to upload like videos and it says, can't use this video, the file size is too large or anything like that.
So our biggest file size that we can handle is 5 GB per video, for example. If you're uploading 5 GB of a video, that's a monstrous video that you're going to be doing. And we'll always probably suggest chopping that up anyways, because any student will only have sort of, let's be honest here, scenarios will probably be anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes max. I mean, if you're going any longer than 20 minutes, then the student signs off pretty quickly, or the trainee does, unless it's a mandatory one, which still they will sign off. So our file format sizes are very much the 5 GB per video that you can upload into the platform. But again, that's a very big 360 video or a 2D video that that you're uploading.
Yeah, you're right. But again, I just had bad experiences. I couldn't even get I think it was 1 minute of video was normally the longest that I could probably put onto these other external sites. But yeah, and like you say, 5 is probably enough for, at least even a 20-minute video there, isn't it? It's probably even longer than that.
That would probably be the thing. I think for a 5 GB video, you're probably looking about half an hour video that you're uploading, which again, for a 5 GB, you can still do, because we have had 15, 20-minute videos uploaded into the platform and again, perform at the highest rate. But again, we always suggest chopping that up, because for the student's sake, you are, testing their concentration.
Yeah, and something that struck me from the video that I showed is imagination's kind of key with this, isn't it? And trying to think a little bit more outside the box rather than just playing a 20-minute video where they get to watch it. Now you can actually play around and get them thinking. What's the most imaginative thing you've seen? Because obviously most people must be coming with all kinds of different projects. Is there anything particularly that's outside the box that no one's ever really thought of? Any kind of bright ideas?
I think there's been, for example, Northumbria one that I've demonstrated, that one was a very, very much an outside of the box experience, because that was taking it to the next level. I think when it comes to healthcare, for example, it's very much a case of taking what is the standard procedures that are the mundane and would become a bit more boring whenever you're doing it, although it's a necessity for them. For example, one of them was a healthcare social clinical social what's it called? Sort of verbal scenario. So it was for mental health. It was how would you approach somebody with mental health? They're in their room, they're in their house, wherever you're a care worker, you're coming in to talk to them, and you're being able to sort of look to clean up with them, encourage them to get up and move around and like that. And again, how to be creative in that sort of sense was very much the case of utilising the facilities that this university had, and for them to allow it to get really messy, for them to then come in and then redo it up, for example, and clean it up, for example, as part of the simulation. Completely unrelated of healthcare, for example, we had a client who created an immersive shearing Welsh wool scenario. So shearing sheep, and how would you shear a sheep? It was all to do with the social chain and the supply chain of sheep shearing here in Wales. So because we're a Welsh-based organisation, North Wales, so they created a full-on scenario and simulation around sheep shearing, and that was probably the most out-of-the-box thing I'd ever seen using sheep shearing. So
I mean, again, you'd be surprised how many times I come across farming within simulation. It's a thing. Who knew that farmers wear VR to learn how to shear sheep? It's just it's a bit out there, isn't it?
Yes.
What we've seen today is obviously the kind of the back end, doing all the creative stuff on computers. What does it look like on a headset for a user? One of my worries is I don't like giving headsets and controllers to people that are not really familiar with them, because they have a lot of problems, and then you can't see what they can see, so it's really difficult to help them navigate through the experience. How many kind of clicks is there to get to where they need to be, or do you kind of recommend that you preload it pretty much ready for them before they put it on?
So at Vertus, we have two options when it comes to deploying it out to the viewer mode, in the sense from the immersive perspective as well as the VR headset perspective. They have got an offline mode if they want one. So a lot of institutions will have an offline mode, which is a pre-loaded scenario onto the VR headset. So it's hard-coded into the VR headset. Again, after they finish their subscription with us, for example, if they want to continue moving forward, they can have access to it on the walls forever and on the VR headset forever. So any viewer mode or simulations they've created and deployed out, they can keep that on the offline version. If they want it online, they won't get the benefits of the data mode. Now, in terms of the going straight from creating the scenario and deploying it out via the web and then getting them to log in via the web, we've created a very quick process where in the top right-hand corner you could see on the platform there's something called code. That code, you click on it to generate a code, and the code is very much a case for students to log in via the VR headset. So it's very much a 4-digit code, boom, 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 and then they log in, they go straight into that. They can see the scenario that they're required to go in, and they click onto that scenario and they go through, and it's very much a case of clicking, press play, off you go. Again, there are obviously ways of getting around a lot of things, of guiding them through things. In the scenario will be very much a case of you can stream obviously on a tablet, or you can stream to navigate them through. But in order for them to actually get into the scenario, we've made it so simple and mainstream as quickly and flawless as quickly as possible, so that you can essentially click on that code, type in the 4-digit code, and then you go straight into the scenario from there.
And if it was a tablet or a laptop, you just send them a link and they go through a link?
So the tablet, laptop, or any other sort of devices that are basically fully immersive, you've got multiple ways of doing it. Again, you can do offline mode if you'd like to. However, we suggest doing through the LMS integration. So a lot of institutions like it through the LMS. That's a single sign-on, so all they have to do is log into what they would normally log into to go to any other module or anything like that. And then once they've logged in through the LMS, they'll have their scenario up and ready to go that they have to complete going from there.
for those people that might be a little bit worried, when they upload their videos onto Vertis, that it's still their video, isn't it? They still own their content
Yes.
that they've created.
Yeah, so all IPs and everything like that in terms of the videography, anything like that, Vertis Tech does not own any of that videos or anything like that. The only thing that Vertis Tech will own, if there is a video in the account, will be the pre-uploaded from Vertis Tech. So if Vertis Tech has pre-uploaded something of their own, for example, any videos or anything like that, even if they've come to us and said, here's a video, can you upload it into our platform? That's not our video, that the IP still stays at the institution, the organization. So we completely don't have it in that sense. The only thing that we own as part of the IP is just the functionality. So all the overlaying, hotspots, everything, how it all functions.
Yeah, and for those that like to share, is there a tab that that people can share for everyone that has a Vertis account? Is there like a national library or anything where people can share their own content?
Yes, so we've incorporated two different things, as you could see in one of the demonstrations where I went into that link to get a public link, the scenarios for them to view in viewer mode. They can do that. If anyone else who from another institution has got a creator mode account, Vertis Tech, if you could see in the top left-hand corner of our platform, we have something called Marketplace. Now, this is something new that we're trying to bring out at the moment, but we've just got to try and iron out some details, where institutions and organizations can actually create their own scenarios in media and then resell it to another institution or to another college or health board, for example. So they can very much sort of get a return on investment on their platform subscription with us. That also allows them to share the scenario across. So what they can do is they can share it. Anyone else who has a creator account that has access to that scenario then have one of two options. They can use the scenario that has been created by the other organization that originally shared it and not make any changes to it, or they can duplicate it and then they can make, as you can see through my demonstration, as any changes they want to colors, to context, text, videos, images, anything like that they want to do. Because you might have the best base environment that people want, and it's again, filming the scenarios seems to be everyone's limitation. But there's a lot of institutions and organizations that will go and do the filming. It's just taking that and then overlaying it on top.
Well, I've never heard of anybody selling their own content. It'd be interesting to see how people value their work and how they put a price on that kind of stuff. Be very interested to see that. You might almost have people having their own little business inside your business, which is interesting. All right, George. Well, thank you very much for coming today. It's been great catching up with you and seeing, like I said, painting 1,000 words with one picture, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.